close my eyes. I had told Keith about my father on our third date. I'd had a glass of wine and I was feeling open, and he had that way of looking at me that made me think he was safe. I told him my dad walked out when I was 12 and that it shaped how I viewed men, and that I valued consistency above everything because of it. I cried a little when I told him. He held my hand and said he wasn't going anywhere. And then he went home and typed it into a group chat as a tactic. He filed my trauma under useful information. He took the most vulnerable thing I had ever shared with another person and turned it into a strategic asset. Zola screenshot everything Sully showed her and sent it to me. I read through every message. There were 47 of them spanning 4 months. Keith had documented every step of his strategy in that group chat like he was writing a manual. He tracked what I responded to. He noted which compliments made me smile and which ones I brushed off. He kept a record of things I told him so he could bring them up later and seem thoughtful. He even wrote a message the night before he met my mom that said, "Meeting the mom tomorrow. Bringing a candle because the girlfriend mentioned her mom likes candles. This is the trust lock. After this, she won't question anything. Trust lock." That was his phrase for meeting my mother and bringing her a gift. My mother, who hugged him and told me on the phone later that night that he seemed like a real gentleman. My mother, who had been cheated on and lied to and let down by enough men to fill a waiting room, and who looked at Keith and finally thought her daughter found someone safe. He turned my mother's trust into a strategy checkpoint. That was the part that broke me. Not the playbook, not the bet, not even the plan to sleep with me and show proof. It was the candle. It was my mother smiling and thinking someone was finally being honest with her daughter, and the whole time he was taking notes for his boys. I didn't speak to Keith again. I blocked his number. I blocked him on everything. He tried to reach me through Lana 2 weeks later. Lana told him to stop. He sent a letter to my apartment. An actual handwritten letter, 4 pages long. In the letter, he said he was sorry and that he knew what he did was wrong, but that somewhere along the way the act became real. He said he actually fell for me. He said the playbook started as a joke between friends, and then he realized he genuinely liked me, and by then, he was too deep in to tell me the truth. He said losing me was the worst thing that had ever happened to him, and that he would do anything to fix it. I read the letter once. I noticed 3 things about it. First, he never mentioned my mother. He never acknowledged what he did to her trust. Second, he framed the whole thing as something that happened to him. He fell for me. He was too deep. Losing me was the worst thing that happened to him. None of it centered what he did to me. It was all about how the consequences affected Keith. Third, and this was the one that really confirmed everything, the letter was beautifully written. Perfect structure. Emotional pacing. It built from remorse to vulnerability to a hopeful ask. It read like it had been drafted and revised and polished. It read like a playbook. I threw it away. Zola came over that night. I told her about the letter. She asked if she could read it. I said I already threw it out. She said good. Then she asked me something I didn't expect. She said, "Do you think any part of it was real?" I thought about it honestly, and I said I don't know, and I don't think it matters. Even if some part of Keith's feelings were genuine, the foundation was rotten. You can't build something real on top of a con. The first brick was a lie. Everything stacked on top of it was contaminated. She nodded and said, "That's the smartest thing you've said in 3 months." We laughed. It was the first time I had laughed about any of it. Nessa, my coworker, asked me a week later what happened with Keith. I told her the short version. She sat at her desk for a full minute without talking, and then she said I knew something was off about him. I asked her what she meant. She said when Keith came to pick me up from work once, she noticed him watching the other men in the lobby. Not in a nervous way, in a sizing up way. Like he was measuring himself against every man in the room and calculating where he ranked. She said it gave her a strange feeling, but she didn't want to say anything.